We're doing it live. All right, what's up, guys? Welcome to episode 7 of the PlayFast podcast. I know we've talked in previous podcasts also about the S7K putter, which is a standalone, which means you can set it down behind the ball, step away from it, and it stays stood up on its own. And now you can come behind it and look and see where that putter head is facing to see if you're online or not, so that when you go to stroke it. So a lot of times people don't know unless you have training aids like a laser that attaches to your putter to see where you're lined up. A lot of times you go out there and you practice and you're practicing wrong things. So people say all the time, practice makes perfect. Well, that's wrong. Perfect practice makes perfect. Yeah. Bad practice makes bad.
Yeah, that's true.
So repetition, you can't...
You can't rep something if you're not doing it correctly.
Well,
I mean, you can rep it if you're doing it incorrectly, but if you're doing it so many times, it's not really going to help you if you're not doing it correctly.
Right.
Like power cleans. Anybody can power clean, but if you're not doing it right, it's not going to help you.
And you can't confuse busy work with results. So just because you're practicing and staying busy doesn't mean you're going to get results if you're practicing wrong.
Yeah.
So practice only makes perfect if you're practicing correctly. Yeah. So if you're a poor putter and you really don't know what's going on and you don't have the right training aids or a teacher there with you, you go out and practice all you want to. You're just practicing all the poor things.
Yeah.
And then some days you get lucky, some days you putt better than others, but you never become a good putter.
Yeah.
So, in my golf game right now, that's kind of what I'm working on right now. So this is the time of year where I get a chance to go out. Today by 4:30, I'll get a chance to go out and practice a little bit. And I live right on a course now, so I'll get a chance now that it stays light till 6:15. I'll get about an hour and a half to an hour and 45 minutes worth of work in, and then that's probably 3 or 4 times a week. I get a chance to do that based on what we have going on with weightlifting, and then play a little bit on the weekend and holidays, and so. Exciting time of year in golf, getting ready. The Masters is coming up in a little bit over a month, so everybody gets excited about major tournaments and the Masters coming up. So exciting time.
I'm more excited for the NBA Finals coming up. I mean, obviously they still
NBA Finals won't be till June.
They just had the All-Star game this weekend.
Yeah, and then the NBA will go another 8 months.
But it's in like gear mode now.
Yeah, second half of the season you get a little bit closer.
Yeah,
but
the second half of basketball season is way better than.
Baseball spring training starting up. Hockey's in full flow, so a lot of things going on. If you're a gearhead, the Daytona 500 was just in our neck of the woods, about an hour and a half south of us this past weekend.
And if you're big into XFL,
XFL, from what I've heard, I haven't watched the game yet. I have a former player of mine playing with the Tampa Bay Bandits, and then our high school that I coach at now has a former player playing with the Tampa Bay Bandits. They happen to be on the same team. I have not watched it. I plan on driving down to Tampa for a home game and watching those guys play. Everything I've heard about the XFL has been great, if that's what you're into. At this time of year for me, I don't want to look at another football game. I don't want to see another football game.
I compared it to like AEW. It's
an alternative right now.
Yeah, it's nothing.
I've heard nothing but good things about it, though.
The kickoff is really good.
I've heard a lot of good things about it. I've heard, between the kickoff and some other things, people are really excited. I think they've already done better than the other league that was just going on. It went out of business. They've already done better in their first 2 weeks than that league was doing. So I think it's going to be around. I think it's going to stick this time for a little bit. And I hope it does, because I have a former player that's probably making a living doing it, and a former kid from our high school that's making a living doing it. So for their sake and everybody else's sake and the guys that are coaching, I hope it sticks around. You got WrestleMania coming up in a couple weeks.
WrestleMania. Okay. Brock Lesnar versus, what's his name? McIntyre?
Drew McIntyre.
Drew McIntyre. Well, you got to get through what's that one pay-per-view they randomly have? Because Brock Lesnar's fighting that short dude, Ricochet.
Yeah, I don't know what the next pay-per-view is, actually. I haven't. I've been a little bit down after the clinic and everything else. I've been a little bit down on my.
I can see why you're like. I thought I was like.
I've been a little bit down on my wrestling time. I've watched some things and I like the way some of the angles are going. Obviously, WrestleMania is in Tampa, so it's close to us, and I'm not going to go. I really don't want to go live. I'd rather watch on TV. But it's probably a bucket list thing that you got to do once. I get it as a wrestling fan, but got some great things going on. Obviously, whatever they're trying to do with Goldberg and the Fiend, I really don't know.
Super Showdown.
Yeah, Super Showdown in Saudi. Yeah. So I'm surprised they're doing that again, because last time guys got stuck there and it was a nightmare. But I guess when you make that much money and Vince tells you to go, you got to go.
Yeah. I mean, Brock knows he's making a lot of money, and he's the only one that gets like the private jet.
Yeah, he got out of there.
He's the only one that got out there.
He got out of there last time with the private jet, and everybody else got stuck. So, But but an interesting time in wrestling, and AEW is still doing pretty good. New Japan's doing okay. And
did you watch the NXT Takeover?
I did not watch Takeover Portland.
I didn't watch either, but I heard the Finn Balor match was really good.
Finn Balor's always going to put on a good match, regardless. I heard there was a great heel turn with Johnny Gargano turning on Ciampa.
I think so.
Keith Lee and I don't know how to pronounce his name, Djokovic or Djokovic or
Charlotte Flair speaking the girl from NXT.
That should have happened all along, and I'm glad WWE finally.
I didn't think that when they did that, I was like, oh, I thought it was only Raw and SmackDown. But then you brought up the whole AEW that now.
The roster is the roster, and you can do what you want. And everybody in the WWE universe, because of the size of the two of them and the physicality of the two of them, and because you've seen Charlotte versus Becky and Bayley and Sasha and Asuka so many times, people wanted something different. And I think Rhea Ripley is phenomenal. And I think she's got a great work rate like Charlotte does. So I think that'll be something that's interesting, something that's fresh. It keeps NXT fresh. But a lot of great things going on in the wrestling world. So, there's a lot of good things going on. Interesting time. You got, as music kicks in, Metallica's going to be playing 5 live festivals coming up. And hopefully James is out of rehab, I believe, and things are going well. And Ozzy's new album just came out. So he's supposed to tour if he's healthy enough. So there's a million shows going on. A lot of bands from the 80s playing. In my genre, my realm of what I listen to, I believe Motley Crue's out there with Def Leppard and maybe Tesla and Poison or something along those lines. I know Tesla's touring again. Tesla just did another 5-man acoustical jam from London, which they did years ago in the 80s or 90s. It was a huge hit. I know the Scorpions are touring again. I think they're going to do a residency in Vegas. I know Megadeth is back out on the road. Dave Mustaine just got...
You need to go out and go see some of these people.
Nah. I'm a little bit too old for concerts now, but the Metallica Festival...
You can never be too old for...
The Metallica Festival, 2 days of 2 different set lists is something that, again, WrestleMania bucket list, getting to the Masters bucket list, visiting Alabama's campus bucket list.
I've already been to Alabama.
I've never been to the campus, no. And then Metallica 2 nights festival, different set lists is bucket list. So a lot of things going on, busy time of year, a lot of great things happening. And what we're going to do at the end of this podcast, not the end, but right after this segment, I interviewed a phenomenal human being, Rock Marcone. And the great thing about YouTube and PlayFast Football and social media is you never know who's out there watching, and you never know who you're talking to and what's going on. So I got a chance. I met a guy that had been a follower of ours on YouTube and Twitter, and he comes down to the clinic with his wife. He comes from Michigan, and my buddy who was helping me put together the clinic and his wife were doing the name badges, and they wanted to make sure they spelled it right, so they were searching some things on Google to get names right. And when they searched this guy on Google and they found out, they said, hey, you got to look into this. And the guy comes down, and I meet him, and I start talking to him, and it ends up, that the guy is a big-time military member of the United States of America, involved in 2 or 3 tours of duty overseas, leading some big combat missions and troops and armored vehicles. And the guy's got a great story. We get into a little bit about it on the next half hour of this podcast. Is going to be that interview from the clinic with Rock Marcone and myself. And it just goes to show you never know who's out there listening. You never know who's watching. Don't take anything for granted. And treat people nicely. Don't blow off comments or questions. Anything that you can respond to, because I had no idea who this guy was, and no idea what he did for a living, no idea what his track record was, what his past was. And I get to meet him, and he's the most down-to-earth, humble man, and speaks about the things that he did. And he's so interested in football, and he's talking about what we're doing with PlayFast and YouTube and how thankful he is. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm the one that really needs to be thankful, because of what you do gives me the opportunity to do what I do. And what I do is results in losing football games. What you do results in losing human lives. And he was so humble and so down to earth and so gracious. And thank you for having a clinic, and thank you for this venue. And thanks for letting me and my wife come down. And the Embassy Suites is beautiful. And thanks for responding. I couldn't believe, after watching a couple of your videos, that when I sent a message, you responded. Thank you so much for responding. That comment blew me away. I just thought that was something that if you create content, I just thought that was something that people do. I thought you respond. I thought it was the right thing to do. I respond on Twitter whenever I get a chance. If it's not something that I think is, getting catfished or trolled on Twitter, I respond whenever I can. And he was so grateful that I responded to him. And then when I found out who he was and what he did for a living for our country, I was just so thankful that I acted the way I acted in responding and tried not to big time anybody because I have X amount of followers or, X amount of people on Twitter or whatever my YouTube status is. I'm just so glad that I carry myself in the way my parents raised me to carry myself, because I could have turned this guy off real quick. And, it turns out he's a lot more important, in my opinion, in the scope of things than I am. And he was just so humble about what we did, and he loved the clinic, and he loved the fact that he got a chance to speak to some of the speakers that were there, and he got a chance to mingle and talk with them at the social, and just a great guy. So at the end of this segment here, I hope you appreciate the next 27 to 30 minutes of our interview with Rock Marcone. The audio's down a little bit. He's a very soft-spoken guy. He doesn't yell like I do, but I think we've got the audio good enough to where when we put it with this, it's going to make for an interesting podcast. So I appreciate you guys for listening. I appreciate you guys for following everything that we do. Make sure you check out some of the people that support us. Dome Hats, Baker Sporting Goods, Defensive Coordinator, One, Just Play, Max One, Game Strat, DifferenceUSA, all the people that have helped us along the way, Score Fundraising. Make sure you check them out. Make sure you give us some feedback on the podcast or on YouTube to let us know what you would like us to do different, or what you would like us to do in the future. If you're on YouTube, make sure you subscribe, turn the notifications, ring the bell so you know every time we do something. If you follow me on Twitter, send me messages or send me information on anything you'd like to see us do next. Don't know what we'll do for the next podcast. We're still branching forward into interview segments, so I want to get into the football coaching interview segments where I start interviewing different football coaches. So still trying to work on doing it remotely over the phone and over Zoom or somewhere else, so I don't have to do it with everybody locally. I want to do it nationally with some people. So hopefully you enjoy the rest of the podcast with the interview with Rock Marcone. Thanks for everything you do for us. Thanks for checking out these podcasts. If you want to catch us on Patreon, it's www.patreon.com/Coach Mac. $5 a month. There's only one membership tier, $5 a month. We do some different videos. We do some live Q&As. We put the actual video footage of this podcast on there. So if you just heard the audio and you want to check out where we're sitting, what I look like, what I'm doing, what Colby looks like, you can check it out on the Patreon site. But thanks for everything you do. Appreciate it. Remember, you won't play well until you play fast. Enjoy the interview with Rock Marcone. I'll catch you guys on YouTube, Twitter, or the next PlayFast podcast.